Hello, friends and lovers, it's Haelian. This is a Hades 2 aspect tier list. You know how these work. Let's get down to business. So let's start with the staff here. We're going to do each aspect for each weapon one at a time, and obligatory. This is just my opinion. You're allowed to have different opinions. It's just a game. It's all subjective. Nothing's objective. I'm going to try my best to rank them based on what I perceive their power level to be more than anything. A little bit how fun they are, ease of use, and just like their capabilities in different aspects of the game. But let's get it going out here. We got aspect of Mel for the staff. You channel your mega moves 30% faster. Weirdly good for a staff aspect, I gotta say. It's pretty strong. I think the first question some people might have is why would you ever use this over aspect of Momus, which we'll get to later, obviously. But it still has some places where you just want to spam the same Omega move over and over again. And there's kind of easy ways to make good use of it. You know, I would show more footage here, but the game changes too quickly, and it's just not really conducive to spend a ton of time, unfortunately, on something like that. I'm trying to find the dang thing. Yeah, if you don't know about this, autofire is an interesting setting that you can turn on here. So now that it's on, I can just hold down a button the whole time, and Mel will just auto-cast as quickly as possible. And that makes that 30% much more appealing, I gotta say. Now, with the actual attack, it's not quite as good because she has to do a full combo before autofire actually helps here. So that's just me holding down the button. With the special, it is quite interesting, though. So it does have some places with spamming either the attack, special, or cast. All three kind of work in different places. I've had some really cool runs with Geyser Spout, which is the one that makes your Omega cast instant instead of having to wait for it. And that's really, really fun. So it's very strong. Strong start. I think it's an easy B for me here. Yeah, I think that's a good start for it. And why don't we just move straight on into aspect of Circe, which is a good juxtaposition here. After you attack or special, hit 12 times, gain Serenity with your next Omega move. Serenity, Omega damage plus 120%. And then you have to read what Serenity does. It's a complex aspect. Your Omega moves deal bonus damage, and you rapidly restore magic. Lasts for 5 seconds. Try to move my head out of the way there. So I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get... You have an aspect here where you mix up your attack or special with your attacks in specials. In other words, regular attacks, specials, and Omegas. You know, they're trying to get you to mix up, use a little bit of this, use a little bit of that, because the other two are very Omega focused, to say the least. But the problem is, I don't know, I think the biggest issue is that Serenity doesn't last long enough. There's some other problems where you can't trigger Serenity if you don't have enough magic also to use it, which kind of gives you like a soft lock placement. Obviously, you can still win, but it's frustrating from an aspect perspective, and there's no reason to ever use this aspect. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I still want to use Omegas with it, so then why wouldn't I use the other aspects, which are just easier, stronger, better, faster, etc. It's weak, unfortunately, right now. I think it needs a little bit of help. I would like an aspect that, for the staff, that focuses better on the just a plain attack and special and not the Omega moves. I don't have great ideas for it, but I feel like they could do better for sure. And why don't we go straight on to Momus here? Amazing aspect. Amazing aspect. Aspect of Momus, whenever you use Omega moves, each fires in place up to 3 times until you use it again. Delay between Omega bursts is 1.5 seconds. Might be a little confusing if you haven't tried it before, but if you drop an Omega attack here, for instance, you can see the snake appearing. And that will trigger another Omega 3 times, right? No, sorry. It does it 3 times total. So 1, 2, and 3. And that's with the cast right there. And the great thing is you can have all 3 out at once, but you can't have duplicates. So I have one for the cast, one for the special out here. But if I redo the cast, it replaces the initial one. I hope that makes sense. But it is a little confusing, but it's incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. Great damage output. Great use of Omega moves. Scales really well. It's strung right away in each run. Honestly, it's absolutely amazing. It's really, really good. I mean, it relies on magic, I guess. It could be a problem if you're doing extreme amounts of fear or something like that, but it's still just a really good aspect, and I think the main thing for me here is it's really fun. All right, we got the Dagger coming up. Aspect of Mal, your attacks and specials deal more damage by striking foes from behind, plus 100% backstab damage. Surprisingly good also, I gotta say. Quite strong, works well with a bunch of different knives, like trick knives kind of comes to mind here, but backstab damage is actually pretty good for us here. It's kind of rare in this game compared to Hades 1, right? And the great thing is it works with your attack and special, but you'd probably mostly just want to be spamming the attack with this bad boy if I were to guess. but it's good. It's a pretty strong aspect for cheap, you know what I mean? And it'll feel pretty good even early on. I think the base dagger is one of the easier weapons to use before you even have aspects, so if you're looking for tips from that perspective, I think it's pretty good. Would I rate it higher than Aspect of Mel for the staff? I think Aspect of Mel for the staff is stronger. No, sorry. More fun. More fun, more interesting, but I think the backstab might be a little bit stronger, if that makes sense. So I think I have to rate it a little bit higher. Next up, we get Aspect of Artemis, and this one's been a tough one for me. While this one's a complex too. While you channel your Omega attack, you occasionally parry, then riposte right after, and your Omega attack speed is much, much faster. So, parry, prevent damage from most types of direct attacks, can be repeated after 15 seconds. So you block one instance of damage with a really long cooldown, right? And then you have riposte, you're impervious for 1 second, your next 9 strikes have plus 50% critical chance. When you do parry, you get plus 50%. I know, I'm just repeating what it said. I get it. You get some crit chance afterwards. I think the idea is cool. That's what that blue thing is, to tell you like how much crit you have, I think. Or is it saying it's not on a cooldown? You can see the bubble here now. I think it's a nice idea, but I think it doesn't work fluidly is the way I found with this aspect, because you want to get hit when you're charging the Omega attack. It's hard to really work it into the flow of combat. It feels like you suddenly have to stop and wait for an enemy to hit you in order to actually get the benefit. So while it's a neat idea, I just don't think it really works exactly with what the game's trying to do. It's also like, it's not a timing-based thing like you'd expect in a game that uses the word parry, right? It doesn't really feel that way to me, at least. And then after that, the fact that it has a 15-second cooldown is just so long. It's very, very, very long, I gotta say. I think there are also some unblockable things which are kind of frustrating its own way. I do get it kind of mixed up with the other block mechanisms in the game. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad aspect, but I think it's a clunky aspect, and I definitely don't have fun playing with this one. So I do think it's stronger than Cersei. You'll have a better time than Cersei. I'm debating if it's still worthy of D tier, though, at this point. I don't think it's worthy of D tier. I'm going to drop it and see. It at least has some interest, and I like the fact that they incentivize us to use the Omega attack with the dagger there, but I don't know. I think it needs something else. But here we go. Aspect of Pan, your specials seek foes in your cast and fire more shots if you channel for longer. Omega special, max shots plus 5. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Some people call it like the Chiron of Hades 2 or whatever. Drop your cast, channel your Omega special, boom, they home in. One neat thing, a little tip for it, you can actually sit here and hold down the Omega, and you can actually drop the cast without interrupting the channeling there at any point. So really, really nice, especially since the cast suddenly feels like it doesn't last very long when you're trying to use this aspect. It's just so good. Throw Poseidon on your special, you're going to have a really, really good time. Not to mention they kind of overhauled the regular special on the dagger fairly recently with the latest update. So that feels a lot better too for picking off small enemies in the early game before you really get the Omega stuff rolling. Get Spiral Knives as your hammer. Oh my god, call it meaty. You know what I'm saying? Easy S tier. Definitely more powerful than Momus. Easier to get going. It's better right away. Has a higher top end too, I would argue, as well. Maybe not like quite as fun because Momus just has a lot of different possibilities, whereas I feel like Pan is just kind of like this one note for the most part, but still a really strong note. You know what I'm saying? Really good aspect. On to the Umbral Flames. I think now's a good time to mention, I don't think any of the aspects of the game are so bad, you know, that they're like unusable or anything like that. I know we put Cersei in D tier, but it's all relative to each other. Nothing's unusable. Nothing's so bad that you can't, you know, win a run with, obviously. I guess some people saying, like, I'm trying to win, should I use this aspect or that aspect? You can win with anything. You know, that's not that big of a deal, you know. But if you just want to know relative to each other what the disparities are, I think we can kind of do that. Nothing so bad you should feel ashamed for liking it or playing it or anything like that. Anyway, aspect of Melt. For the torch, flames from your Omega Special can burn longer before expiring. Omega Special duration plus 2.5 seconds. This is a fun one. This one's very middle of the road, which works well for aspect of Mel, I guess you could say, right? I think it's quite strong. I probably don't like it as much as I used to. It kind of got replaced by another torch aspect that we'll get to, but I mean, there's not much to say. You walk into a room and you just spam this, basically, and then this is going to be your run. You know what I'm saying? Ideally, at least. There's lots of hammers that work well with it. The main problem with the special or Omega special with the torches here is the fact that it does not stagger enemies at all. So enemies might bonk you from time to time, in other words. It's still quite strong, though. It is still quite strong. I think it's definitely above Artemis for me. I think it's probably a solid B for me. I would probably drop it down to here just because the other... Look at all the Mel's are right there. Yeah, I think it works. It makes the most sense to me. In terms of power, I think that's fair. Is it fair? It might... I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there. Next up, we got Aspect of Moros. Here we go. Your attacks linger for 6 seconds. Explode in a blast if struck by your special's blast damage 60%. So if you don't know how to play Moros, it's pretty straightforward. Some people get confused why it's good. The reason why it's good is just simply because the numbers are high, is the best way I can describe it. The numbers are weirdly high. So when you walk in a room, you channel your Omega Special, then you just hold down the attack button until your Omega Special runs out, and your attacks will explode when the special touches them, and you'll just deal a crazy amount of damage. You don't really need a specific build after this aspect. That's the sort of thing. And I'm not going to be surprised if it gets bonked into the bucket very shortly, because it's too good. When you don't need to think about the boons that you take, that's how you know it's too good, you know what I'm saying? At least with Pan, like, you got to kind of pick the right special, but here, it practically doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Sure, there are things that are better than others. Best one that I like right now, get the Clean Candle Hammer, really good. Zeus on the Zeus on the special, Blitz in other words, Blitz on the special, and I don't know, Afro's attack works well. Put Hera on the attack as well. It's really strong. Most of your damage is going to come from your Omega attack. It's ridiculously strong. It's too strong. It's disgusting. Maybe I should be saying the other way around. I think in terms of power, I'd probably rank Pan slightly higher. I think it has a higher top end, and you can be at a much greater distance when you're using Aspect of Pan. I probably have slightly more fun playing Moros, but I guess I'll leave it there. And there's one more torch aspect. Aspect of EOS, your Omega attack fires a Daybreaker that deals damage in an area around it every 2 seconds. Daybreaker blast damage 150. So it's pretty straightforward in the sense that you get that thing if you actually channel your Omega attack. And you can only have one out at a time, but there's some finickiness about it. So if you try to do it again, yeah, it'll mimic your specials. I don't know if it really explains that well, including your Omega specials. I love the idea of this aspect, but I feel like I don't have that much fun with it, and it could be a simple matter of it's kind of being overshadowed by the other torch aspects that I just kind of like a lot, particularly Moros. I don't think it needs to change, to be clear. I don't really think it needs to change. Maybe the Daybreaker could last longer or something like that. I don't know. But I think it's a great idea, and I don't know. I guess I don't really have any thoughts. It's truthfully, I just don't play with it that much. I can't help but drop it down to C, though. Just because, compared to the other torch aspects in particular, it's clearly, at least in terms of Moros, it's not that good. Some people I can imagine are not going to be happy that I put Mel above it, I can foresee. Again, I don't think it's bad. This might be just my personal difference in this sense that, like, I just don't know if I have a ton of fun playing EOS for some reason, compared to the other aspects, at least. All right, everyone's favorite weapon, the axe. Is this everyone's favorite weapon? I don't know. I hear a lot of talk about it. What's your favorite weapon? Let me know. Aspect of Mel, gain bonus attack power and health. Attack power 35, max life plus 35. It's really unfortunate that this isn't attacks power. So the whirlwind will also get some more power, I think. Because I feel like it's really held into this extremely narrow space with the axe here. In other words, there's not really good reasons to ever really use this aspect as far as I can tell. Therefore, I think it's a pretty straightforward D. I mean, I guess I do find reasons to use it, but it's usually extremely specific, like meme type runs where I just don't get use out of anything besides the max health on the aspect, which is just so little too. Like 35 just doesn't feel like a lot. However, I gotta admit, I use it more often than Cersei. I find more reasons to use it than Cersei. The bottom line here is that the power that you get from this aspect, right, is completely outclassed by the 30% attack speed that you'll get from aspect of Thanatos that we'll talk about soon. So there, again, like, no good reason to ever really use it unless you kind of know what hammer you're going to get. Dashing Heave is a really good hammer for this, by the way, in case you don't know. But yeah, pretty rough. Next up, though, Aspect of Charon. Your cast lasts 3 seconds longer, erupts like your Omega cast if struck by your Omega special. What a great idea, huh? What a great idea for an aspect, by the way. Leave cast size and damage plus 30%. I wouldn't be surprised if this... I don't think it needs to get nerfed. It's not a Moros. It's not a case of Moros here, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised still. It got the most mild nerf you've ever seen before when they kind of changed the block mechanism. But some people are really headstrong about it. So if you don't know, you can kind of dash while charging that Omega special there. If you can spread your thumb that far across your controller or something like that. But it's another case where your boons don't matter a ton. Like, your cast actually matters very little, the cast boon that you take. Your special matters more, and what matters the most is probably just making sure that you can generate enough magic to use this, since the Omega special for the axe cost a lot. So, lucid gain all year long, you know what I mean? But really, really, really good aspect here. You're probably going to find a lot over here in the S tier for me. I think this is how I would rate these, but admittedly, I don't think it matters that much, the order here at the top, because they're all just really strong. It's nice to see that every weapon kind of represents up at the top, by the way, though. But yeah, really, really strong aspect with Charon. Aspect of Than. Your attack is faster. Each strike, it grants mortality until you take damage. Mortality is a fleeting bonus of 1% critical chance for your Omega moves up to a max of 13%. So I use this aspect quite a bit, and I think it's very strong. I gotta admit, though, I typically half ignore mortality, just because that bonus attack speed makes it so you could probably just ignore your Omega attack altogether, or Omega special, or anything. And you can think about mortality there building up, or you could just spam the attack button and you're probably gonna have a really good run, which is kind of sad, I guess, you know what I mean? It's very good. It's a very good aspect. It's almost too bad that it's so good, really. But it is very narrow, like you just swing it around, you know. This, to me, is the closest thing to Arthur, more than Aspect of Mel, I guess, for me, for some reason. But yeah, I guess this is the closest thing you get to a Whirlwind aspect, which is kind of too bad, because I don't really feel like I want to do Whirlwinds when I take it. That's why I kind of feel like this weapon needs a change up so that Whirlwinds feel more welcome, I guess, is the best way I could put it. But yeah, I think that's a good A tier. Probably going to be at the high end of A tier. The Argent Skull aspect of Mel. Your attacks have more power for each shell fired and not yet retrieved. Power spent per shell plus 20. So you could get some pretty monster attack damage. I've had some really good runs with this thing, to truth be told. Is it super exciting? Not really. I think my best piece of advice, because I've heard a lot of people say they don't like this weapon at all. Like, nothing about the weapon they like. They kind of make it look like a long or mid-range weapon. I think you kind of can't treat it as one. The easiest runs I've had are where I basically treat it as short-range blasts, and you kind of just stick close by and gather the skulls really quickly, as you can see there, including with Aspect of Mel. Even more so with some of the other aspects. But I think it's pretty decent with Mel. And there's reasons to take it over the other aspects here. Like, if you want to go for a particular run with, like, the Omega attack, maybe, which is kind of weird, I gotta admit. Or if you just want to play, like, a regular attack run, but you don't really want to do Medea, which is its own thing a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it works quite well. It is still quite strong, I gotta say, overall. I think it's gonna end up in a high C. Personally, for me, I would put it above Eos. Not really in terms of strength, but maybe in terms of strength. I don't know at that point. I'm not sure at that point, but I think that's definitely deserve it. And then we got Aspect of Medea. Your attack stays within reach and explodes after landing your specials or 3 seconds. Attack and special damage plus 90%. 90% is a lot. This thing got buffed a lot too, which is surprising. I think it's because a lot of people don't like the way the aspect plays, which is sort of to say, you know, like budget Beowulf or something like that. So when you hit your attack, Mel holds it, and then when you special into an enemy, it will explode, the shell will drop, and you then have to retrieve it. So it's actually an incredibly strong aspect, but it can be quite frustrating to play, I've found. I play with it quite a bit, especially when doing speed runs, and the main issue that I have with it is mostly that the special makes it... It's quite hard to hit enemies with the special, with Mel, basically. The hitbox with the special is kind of narrow. You don't get any of that aim assist with it. So you're really relying on just hitting the enemies very quickly before they get to you. And again, you have to be literally going through the enemies to hit them. So you're going to be at incredibly close range too, just like running into them, hoping that you hit them before they hit you, basically. So really strong, sort of a glass cannon-y style thing, but it is really, really good. I'm tempted to put it in S, but I think the power level is there, but that lack of defense kind of hurts it. I think it's going to be the highest A I've ever seen before in my life, if I were to guess. Yeah, I'm tempted. Okay, I'm busting it up to... I think I'm going to bust it up to S, but it's going to be on the lower end of S. I have to. Aspect of Persephone, your Omega special is enhanced, and damage from your cast can extend it by up to 2 seconds. Omega move damage plus 30%. So there's that bar next to your shells again, which is next to our magic bar, by the way. So when you deal damage with your cast, that will build up, and the more that has been built up, the longer your Omega special will last. I don't know if it works here. Yeah, it doesn't actually work here, but our Omega special is supposed to last longer after dealing damage with the cast. Now, the weird thing is, there's a lot of inconsistencies with this aspect. Scorch damage does not help build up the meter if you have Hestia's cast, which, it makes sense with the rest of the game, but also feels unfair. I think Poseidon's might not actually work either, because that's splash damage, it's not cast damage, you know? It's just kind of unfortunate, and I wonder if they should find a way to work that in. But this aspect is actually quite good, mostly because it empowers the Omega Special, and during the Omega Special with this weapon, you are actually impervious to damage. So you are totally immune during that, and you can deal out quite a bit of damage with it. It's actually quite good. So if you just take, say, Zeus's cast with this bad boy, and practically any special after that point, you're going to do pretty well, because Zeus's cast will deal a lot of damage to enemies. You don't even have to be using the Omega cast. And then you just kind of spam that over and over again. And I think you'll have a pretty good time. It'll be a pretty safe run. You know, it might not be as much damage as some of the other things we discussed, but it'll definitely be a safe run. I think that's a pretty easy A for me. And so is that our highest ranking weapon that with no baddies, I guess? No, yeah, kind of, I guess, in some ways. But yeah, there you go. There's the skulls. All right, now we probably got what everyone's been waiting for, the black coat. And luckily, I did wait on this tier list to try to play every aspect as much as I possibly could. You know, I didn't want to give you something within the first few days as a knee-jerk reaction or something like that. I don't know, maybe it would have been fun to kind of rank it and then come back and rank it again later on. But yeah, I mean, definitely this is what people have been waiting for. This was added with the Olympic update. And if you don't know, by the way, the hidden aspects, we are going to be getting hidden aspects. They have sort of been data mined or leaked, I guess you could say. I do have another video with that if you want to look for it, but I won't talk about it here in case you're trying to save yourself for that. But in case you're interested, it's out there. Anyway, aspect of Mel. Your attacks, sprint, and move speed are 20% faster. So the moveset for this bad boy looks something like this. Here's our regular attack, you know, just kind of a simple punch thing. Not quite as quick as the fist from Hades 1. That was our Omega attack there, by the way. The dash strike is really powerful with this weapon, by the way, for the attack. And then we have the specials. Just to kind of talk a little bit about the weapon. I think the specials are weak, I'm going to be honest. Both Omega and regular. One interesting thing you can do is that you can kind of sneak out specials while attacking. It's kind of hard to really describe how to make it happen exactly. But you can kind of... I don't want to use the term animation cancel, but there's something interesting going on there where you can kind of do both at once. So I usually just mash my thumb on both fingers there. But the best runs I've had with this weapon and this aspect, I guess you could say, in particular, is to put something like Poseidon on the attack and just spam the regular attack over and over. The Omega attack, while it does block, is a little rough. Like, you know, you're going to have a hard time dealing a lot of damage with the Omega attack, truth be told. But the block does have its own uses. And then the special is just kind of there as, I guess, a support system. But I do think Aspect of Mel is surprisingly strong. Sadly, possibly stronger than the other aspects in my mind right now. But it does do a pretty good job if you get something like the Exhaust Riser hammer, which allows your dash strike to strike more times. And that's a 360 damage circle around Mel when she does the dash strike with this bad boy. It's really, really good, actually, if you get that one hammer, exactly one hammer. The rest are kind of the average stuff like plus power, plus range, plus speed, you know, like faster attacks or something like that. Nothing that's transformative besides that one. So I guess you could say you're probably going to see a trend here where the aspects for this weapon are probably going to end up quite low. Look, every single weapon has an aspect in S tier. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be the same case with this one, I'm afraid. You know? I do like the weapon. Don't get me wrong. I like the weapon. I have fun with the weapon. I foresee a change coming, though, with these specials in particular. They already buffed them a little bit. I think they just need a little bit more help. You can't center a build around the specials, it feels. I've tried it a dozen times, probably. I've never had a great run. I've had okay runs on a good day where we got very lucky, where I tried to center around the special. But let's move on to the aspects in particular. Aspect of Selene, you start with Skyfall, a hidden hex that strikes multiple foes and applies shine. Hex ready after 60 magic use. What a great idea for an aspect, I think, here, by the way, to build the hex right into it. It's a really interesting way to make things work, and I do think the hex works well and everything is fine. It kind of comes down to, it's not the aspect that I think is the issue per se. Oh my god, I'm getting like an alert here. Oh my god, it scared the crap out of me. I got one of those weird alert things or whatever. Okay, so I don't even know what I was saying, but I think this is a really good idea for an aspect. I think the core problem with why it's not going to get a very high ranking right now is mostly because I think the issue with the core weapon, not to do with the aspect. I don't think this aspect really needs to change if we can work on some other things there. So in case you don't know, Shine is supposedly a curse. I believe that doesn't work right now, though, during this current patch. Afflicted foes take plus 50% damage from your Omega moves. So what you'd want to do is cast the Hex, spam your Omega moves. Basically, you'd want to spam Omega moves altogether with this aspect, since you need to spend magic in order to charge your Hex anyway, right? So I think it's a good idea. I think it's fine. I think some numbers need tweaking. I can't really showcase this to you. Can I? Actually, yeah, you probably can. I think some numbers need tweaking here, and we need to be able to have more fun. There you go. With these specials, and then this could be really interesting. This would be a great Omega special aspect in the future. But nevertheless, the tier list doesn't lie. You know what I'm saying? The tier list don't lie. I'm hesitant to call it D tier, but at the same time, I think because the Omegas are so lackluster with the weapon right now, I think I kind of have to. I see reasons to use the aspect and to try to have fun with it, but the truth is I don't know if I do have a lot of fun with it right now in its current state. So I think this is the most fair way that I can rank it. Again, I think the weapon just needs to touch up, not necessarily the aspects yet. I don't know if that really makes it better, really. Aspect of Nyx, you have Omega Boost, which lets you produce Night Spawn after you activate it. This one's a lot of people have asked me, what the hell does this stuff mean? Because I feel like they added a lot of key terms here that we've never seen before in my life. Omega Boost, hold a sprint to use 30 magic to power up your sprint, dealing 150 area damage on impact. Then you produce Night Spawn. Your attack and special also split in two that deal reduced damage, lasts for 5 seconds. Okay, better to show than tell here, right? So charge up the sprint here. It deals a decent amount of damage. Then your attacks you could look at it as they just have a longer range, sort of, I think. They do split, as you can see, right? You don't actually need to hit an enemy, though. They essentially have longer range. You can't hit one enemy with, all 3 of those, in case that's not clear. So let's say you're fighting Cerberus, even with a big hitbox like that, you're only going to land 1 attack per punch still there. And I feel like this aspect sounds a lot better than it actually is, I think, in some ways, because it should be good. I think the idea is sound, but I don't know if I love, the range just goes on and on and on. You do get more rockets here, too. You can see them kind of, burst, and you get more of them. It should be cool, but the rockets still just don't feel quite right to me, I think, in some ways. So I do think it's more usable than Selene, though, which really relies on you spamming your Omegas. There's some really cool runs you can have going with this. I mean, I would still just vote that you go for mostly plain attacks. That way you don't have to use your Omegas. You just got to use this sprint thing, which is reasonable, and then you just kind of spam your attack at the enemies and have a good time, basically. And yeah, it'll work. It'll work. It won't be bad. You're not going to lose the run. Did I mix these up? Who is who here? That's Nyx. Okay, hold on. I almost messed up. That's Selene, right? I think that's Selene. This is Nyx. Okay, so what am I thinking here? This a B? It's not that much worse than Nell, that's for sure. But when the weapon so heavily relies on you just spamming your regular attack, Mel is clearly going to be in the lead. So I think it's B worthy. where and be, I don't know. I'll leave that up to you basically at that point. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good to me. All right, that's my tier list. Let me know what you think. What do you agree with? What don't you agree with? You know, let me know. Obligatory, just my opinion. This is just for fun. And I don't want to defend my opinions too much here, too hard, but I do understand that it feels kind of bad to get a new weapon like the black coat and have it not really just burst onto the scene and just feel like, wow, this is the best thing I've ever played. But I feel like it just needs a little bit of help. It's early access after all. These things happen. And I do think they had some really, really strong ideas with it that make it really unique, to say the least, and no one saw this thing coming, that's for sure, right? I do think it just needs a little more balancing, and I think we're due for a balanced patch, to say the least. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in another video.